So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, without any much ado, allow me to invite Professor Julius Kiiza to take the podium and give us the keynote. May you use that?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Thank you, the DVC, the Vice Chancellor, the DVC, and all colleagues of MUASA. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very simple task. I was invited, if the PowerPoint can be flashed, I was invited to make a public display of my ignorance of the subject of academic growth. And I was consoled by the fact that in the audience, we are going to have the Vice Chancellor to correct me if I go wrong, that we are also going to have the DVC Academic Affairs, who had the misfortune of being my student. We are also going to have an expert in curriculum development, as well as the whole MUASA fraternity led by the chair. So allow me to proceed and do what I was asked to do, that is make a public display of my ignorance of this subject matter. I want to begin by highlighting that there is a distinction between academic growth and career growth. Career seems to be individualized. Academic growth is institutional. So when we discuss academic growth, I'm inviting us to appreciate the need to look at the ecosystem, not just to look at you and your position. And in this conversation, the topic we framed is unmasking academic growth in a 21st century African university. I have indicated the outline of my presentation, which is looking, among other things, at what exactly is involved in academic growth and where we are headed. Second, I propose that we look at the meaning of university, which is derived from a Latin word, universitas, simply meaning academy. Third, I'm inviting us to locate Makerere University in the global knowledge ecosystem. And fourth, I will ask us to look at the scientific proxies, the indicators, the approximations of academic growth. And we pose the question, is Makerere fit for purpose, before drawing the conclusions? I have provoked my listeners to say that if I asked you, where is academic growth headed in the African university, the answer will be as confusing as that interesting product of innovation and technology. I wonder whether the MC wanted our discussants to sit strategically and also see, because they're going to be responding to this, is the MC permitting the high-level team to sit that way? Because these are the things we are going to be commenting on.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's do some rearrangement of our sitting.
Okay, and I wanted the VC to see this product of innovation because he's a scientist.
And they are trending.
And so the question is, where is academic growth in a typical African university headed? I want to submit that the answer is as confusing as that product of innovation. I proceed to raise a keynote, and I'm doing this deliberately because I have attended many presentations and some are labeled keynotes without a keynote. So I am saying this is the keynote of this presentation, that academic capitalism and the entrepreneurial university, which are diffusing into Africa's spaces from the global ecosystem, appear to be attractive. However, they mask up the coloniality of power in the knowledge ecosystem. The coloniality of power compellingly remind us of one key message, which I have put in Kiswahili, namely, uzuri wa kitu kwa nje si usalama wa ndani. This simply means that looks can be deceptive, that what you see is not necessarily what actually is. Uzuri wa kitu kwa nje si usalama wa ndani. But that's not all. Academic capitalism trivializes critical thinking and glorifies programmable drones and robots. It defeats context specificity in the name of promoting applied science. Robotics engineering, the use of sensors, algorithms, big data are all undoubtedly important or even unstoppable. The solution, however, is for us to scrutinize what's happening in our spaces. I want to argue that science has a national grammar. There is no science that is disconnected from its context. It follows, therefore, that the African university needs to realize its dual citizenship. The African university is a citizen of the global knowledge economy, but at the same time, it is a context-specific actor. So for us to move forward with academic growth, borrowing good practices from elsewhere is important but inadequate. We need to build context specificity. We need to promote value addition. We need to have relevance in our national and local ecosystem. I want to add quickly that, this is not the space to define a university because we all know, but at least the principal, senior, assistant lecturers might wish to know the following, not the very senior people, that the term university evolved from the Latin word universitas, which means whole or totality. It signifies the pursuit of holistic education, not just job creating science and technology. University education must seek to strike an acceptable balance between the liberal arts, the theoretical sciences, and practical arts. By liberal arts, we mean things like rhetoric, grammar, history, philosophy, and you may add Ubuntu, the discipline you need to belong to the community called the academia. Theoretical sciences, we mean physics, math, algorithms, chemistry, biology, and these related basics. Now, I am outlining this deliberately because the push for job creating sciences has focused on applied technologies, applied disciplines. And we forget that we cannot sustain the application if we ignore the basic sciences that build the foundation for the innovations that are eventually commercialized. So, but we add the third category, which is the practical arts, including medicine. In the history of the university, medicine is an art. Medicine is studied as a science, but the medical practice becomes an art. Engineering is an art. Music, dance, drama, those are arts. In the late 14th century, the term university begins to refer to a self-regulating fellowship. Remember the word, fellowship. It's a community. Fellowship means people who belong with you and with a religious intention, because historically, academia were monks, academia were imams, academia were rabbis, meeting as colleagues in a collegial atmosphere. We will argue that that space appears to be disappearing. When we transformed faculty, meaning intellect and colleagues, into schools, we degraded ourselves from colleagues into a new dispensation where your leader becomes a boss. The school is a refreshing reminder that you have a high school head teacher A high school headmaster is not democratic. It's an instrument of authoritarianism. And if you doubt the significance of that, please come to social sciences and see how power is organized or disorganized. Historically, the role of the university is fivefold. Number one is the cultivation of intellectual power. The cultivation of intellectual power, extremely important in the history of the university. Intellectual power is supposed to be universal, not parochial. Second, the university sought to promote critical thinking and objective truth, even in the context of subjective norms. Number three, the university historically emerged to advance high-level science through research. Number four is the training of human capital for the church, for the mosque, for the government, and for the wider society. Remember, the early universities were established by religious institutions, and they were being prepared, trainees were being prepared to serve those institutions. And number five, the university sought to influence the values, norms, and policy preferences of secular and sacred institutions using evidence. Now, academic growth has historically rewarded number 1, 2, 3, and 4, primarily, which means cultivating intellectual power, promoting critical thinking, advancing high-level research, training the human resource were the most important considerations historically in the academic growth of an institution and the individuals in that institution. Today's knowledge ecosystem is characterized by disruptive ideational, institutional, and technological challenges. The brick and mortar university is being replaced by the virtual university, leveraging smart technology without adequate preparedness. Number 2, we are seeing simple analog giving way to digital dispensations. Number 3, the conventional university is being displaced by the entrepreneurial university. Initially popular in the US and European Union, now Makerere itself is organized as an entrepreneurial university, charging decontextualized tuition in a country where 68% of our citizens are peasants. We have 65% of our youth who are producing children unemployed. And we have a situation where only a tiny fraction works for the formal sector. The bulk of our enterprises are micro, small to medium enterprises. In that environment, the university is charging tuition. And the Deputy Speaker of Parliament is saying that children of the rich must pay tuition. Now, if you ask the question, who are the rich outside politics, you get difficulties. And how sustainable is their wealth if the main source of affluence is politics? We face a serious problem. This university is an entrepreneurial university operating a semester system, which to the best of my knowledge has not been reviewed. Semester system presupposes a high level preparedness, that everything is moving on time. We are having learners who are schooling without learning because the semester system is a space we have failed to customize to our needs. And these are not very sweet things to say when the boss is around. I didn't know he would stay, actually. I thought he would walk out. The culture of collegiality is undermined by a new culture of bossism. Not kind things to say when the bosses are around. Again, I thought the VC is going to walk out and go for the Mwalimu JK function. Now he has decided to stay. What can I do? Corporate governance is displacing academia as a fellowship, as a community, as a family. So we are instead having aspects of corporate governance. I made 2 elite interviews in preparation for this because I was given a short time and no research grant. One interviewee says that what we are seeing in the corporate university called Makerere and a typical African corporate university is that successful grant winners are being rewarded with hastened academic promotion. But the successful grant winners are actually successful beggars. You are begging the rich. And the more successful you are in begging, the faster you are promoted. The second interviewee said they are innovative, they are creative, which is a positive thing. But the third one moderated the two. And the third one said that actually successful grant winners have perfected the art of marketing, adjusting their language to suit the vocabulary of the funding agency and appear like what you stand for is what I have always believed. This is marketing. It's not science. It's marketing. And these are the people now we are enhancing. The promotion of grant winners is hastened. The promotion of those excelling in science and knowledge production is being slowed because they don't meet the promotion requirements. Academic growth, I want to submit, typically rewards academic capitalism, or what Professor Mamdani calls scholars in the marketplace, not science. We seem to be punishing choice, and the principal should let us know whether this is true or not. We appear to be punishing College of Humanities and Social Sciences. We also seem to be punishing COBAMs. And yet these are the cash cows of Makerere as an entrepreneurial university. Allow me to outline the scientific proxies of academic growth. Remember, I argued that academic growth is different from career growth. So my starting point in discussing academic growth is the institutional space. We have to grow the institutional infrastructure. We have to grow the laws and rules and norms, but we also have to grow the infrastructure. And I'm glad we are in this great infrastructure, which signifies expansion of our space. But what we are missing is that in the certain colleges, we are still having inadequate teaching space. I am being told as the semester begins, I have nowhere to take my graduate students because the university has no teaching space. In a research-led university, no teaching space for graduate students. The graduate students are deeming themselves to be orphans in this university. In our school, is it a faculty? They have no space. They trot around, and some of them are here. They just walk around the corridors. They have no home. They have no space. Yet, the managers of this university have been to great academies, and they know graduate students are treated like colleagues. It's a fellowship. It's not punishment. It's a fellowship. It's a community. These young monks, I call them junior monks, those who have the misfortune of coming to my class, should be shown that they belong. We are not doing it yet, and yet they are paying money. But in this institutional space, in the space where we are discussing the issue of scientific proxies of academic growth, I take as extremely important the number of PhD holders. How many do we have? Global comparisons are showing we are doing badly. We are looking at the issue of recognized publications. I have heard some of our colleagues saying, please hasten our promotions. And I'm told the chief executive said, look, discuss it in your unit and give us the minutes showing that actually you are eligible for promotion, even in your discipline. And those things appear to have not been done. Why? Because we appear to have become a little lazy and or are spending too much of our time teaching and marking. In a research-led university, it's a requirement that you can't ask for extra pay in my college unless you teach 12 hours. Teaching 12 hours means you're teaching 3 courses per semester. And that means you're not a university. You're not an academy. You are an enlightened secondary school. In this space, I want us to look at research and development expenditure as a share of the GDP. The African Union says you must spend at least 2% of your gross domestic product on research and development. There is no African country which spends even 1%, not even South Africa. The Ugandan level is 0.59%. And we are doing that badly. In a space where we want to be a research-led university, funding of research and development is extremely wanting. There is this question of the hardware and the software. the laboratories are wanting, reagents are not procured in time. And the situation is worse in the national ecosystem. So even as the head of state says we are preaching a science culture, we are rewarding scientists, only a tiny fraction of pre-university schools do have a laboratory that is functional. I want to submit to the VC and all the managers here, building a culture of science does not begin at university. It does not even begin in the pre-university teaching institutions. It begins at home and in the pre-primary learning institutions. The question becomes, what have we done to cause duty bearers in this country to promote a culture of science and technology at household level, at pre-primary school level, and through primary and secondary before we receive this high-quality learner at Makerere University? It appears we have been sleeping on the job. It appears that we have not done our job. Therefore, we receive poor quality students. This appears to be a problem that is a critique of our failure to do what we are supposed to do. Within the university, academic growth must also be proceeded by the degree to which we promote mentorship of our learners. Mentorship would mean that we have tutorials. Vice Chancellor and the DVC, we killed the tutorial spaces in the era of adopting an entrepreneurial university. I want to brag, and I think I've won my bragging rights. I was much, much better taught under the tutorial system than the students I am teaching without tutorials. Yes, I had great professors. Professor Mamdani is great. Professor Yarugaba, Professor Nsibambi, they taught me. But my actual learning was in the tutorial with a junior person, a tutor. We have killed that space. And so we are producing people who are schooling without learning. They are an embarrassment to this research-led university. Why should I care? And why should you care? We should care because Africa, the data is clear. Africa with a population of 1.3 billion is lagging behind the world. That our universities increased from less than 300 in 1980 to 784 in 2000. And now we have 1,682 universities. Rapid growth is observable, but Africa's share of the world's 18,772 universities is only 8.9%, compared with Asia, which has 37%, Europe, 22%, and others. Of the world's 220.7 million university students, Africa's share 14.6%, 14.6 million, or 6.6%. Now, what does this mean? In the pursuit of a research-led university, internationalization is one of the challenges we confront. But who is going to be interested in coming to study at Makerere in the global knowledge ecosystem when we do not have the infrastructure, we do not have the sufficient staff, and we do not have the technologies that are fit for purpose? And when it comes to promoting our staff, we are extremely slow. When it comes to telling them to go because their retirement has reached, we never ever blink. We never blink about retirement, never. We delay payment for the first recruits. But when retirement reaches, actually you are warned ahead of time. Your time is running out. These are things we must correct in our lifetime. We don't have to pass them on to whoever is coming after us. We can fix them. Africa is even a weaker actor in the disruptive digital technologies. And these are the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. I've already mentioned them. We are talking of artificial intelligence. We're talking of big data. We're talking of robotics engineering, nanotechnology, algorithm, biotechnology. We are a weakling in those spaces. Why? We have emphasized application and forgotten the science and math and physics and algorithm, which become the foundational building blocks of applied medicine, applied veterinary science, and other spaces. General Mark Milley is giving us a very serious warning. He says, and I quote, this is a military officer, the highest officer in the US Army. In 2021, he said, and I quote, "We live in an age of artificial intelligence, robotics engineering, human engineering, hypersonics, and long-range precision fire. The country," and this is important, especially for those of you working for government, "the country that masters these new technologies, combines them with doctrine, and develops military leadership will have a decisive advantage in the 21st century." Can I say, where there is country, we say the university that masters these new spaces and combines them with doctrine and develops institutional and human resource capabilities will have a decisive advantage in the 21st century. These are not very comforting things to say, especially when the chief executive is around. Ironically, and this for me is interesting, the available evidence is showing clearly that the university as an institutional space originated in Africa. Now, Western scholarship alleges that universities are Western. They trace the oldest university to the medieval ages. So medieval, for those who have not read history, is a period from the 5th century to the 15th century. That's where the European scholars trace the origin of today's university. So the University of Bologna which was established in 1088, is presented as the oldest university in the world. That is misleading. That projection of knowledge signifies the coloniality of power and must be deconstructed. At least Netanyahu is urging us to do exactly that. It is true that the University of Bologna was the first institution to use the term university in its name. So we are talking of 1088, the first time the term is used to describe the name of a university. The University of Bologna, founded in 1088, is definitely the oldest university in Europe. It is older than the University of Oxford, which is the oldest in the UK. It is older than the University of Salamanca in Spain, older than the University of Paris, older than even the iconic University of Cambridge. However, the world's oldest continually operating universities appear to be African. And allow me to quote 3 examples. First is the University of Kairouan, founded in 859 AD in Morocco, is the oldest continually operating university. Second is the University of Sankore, which started as a madarasa. Madarasa is a Swahili word for class. It started as a mosque in 988. And that university is extremely important because it started with a financial grant from a Malinke woman. So women, don't say you're missing in history. You founded one of the oldest universities. But I want to add that the University of Al-Azhar in Egypt was established even earlier than Sankore Mosque and University in 970 AD. It was a center for Islamic learning. It was a center for Islamic law. It was a center for grammar, for logic, for philosophy. The African origins of modern science, including math, including philosophy, astronomy, are now abundantly clear. James George writes in The Stolen Legacy, 1976, James George declares that Greek philosophy is a misnomer. The Africans had philosophy before the Greek. He argues that the Greeks were schooled in philosophy and math at the feet of African intellectuals, especially in Kush and in Egypt. That African math and architecture were applied, not just theoretical, And if anybody is in doubt, look at the Pyramid of Giza, which was established roughly 2,500 years before Christ, before the current era in academia, we say. 2,500. The Pyramid of Giza is larger than the Freedom Square. And I challenge my listeners to compare the Pyramid of Giza. These are burial sites. Pyramids were burial sites for the pharaohs. The pyramids are burial sites, but they are elegant pieces of architecture. The dimensions are perfect. They have stood the test of time. Hello, Kasubi, who was destroyed with a box and match. A box and a matchstick. The crisis in northern Uganda of housing by LRA, a box and a matchstick. You can't do that at the Pyramid of Giza, built several thousands of years before the birth of Christ. And these are African pieces of architecture. Of course, there is a claim that is being interrogated by Paul Tiambe-Zelesa and Stanley Alpan. The question they ask is, are these innovations in Africa a product of diffusion? In other words, outsiders bringing the knowledge, or are they a product of endogenous innovations? These tensions have resulted in serious anthropological research, and the conclusion is compellingly clear that Africans were at the front line of innovations, even if they hadn't founded the institution called a university. They had academies doing comparable work. The Bunyoro Kitara Ironsmith workers producing spears were never trained in geology in Makerere University, because this is pre-colonial. They were never trained in geology, but they are able to identify rocks rich in iron. They were able to build kilns. Those of you who forgot your science, iron ore as a rock melts at over 1,000 degrees Celsius. These water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. If you are in doubt, you need to appreciate that our ancestors built kilns where they were able to raise the technology, the temperatures up to 1,000 degrees Celsius. That's a huge accomplishment without a degree in any world academy. Now, the ecosystem of the 21st century academy or university is very clear. And this, we can't hide our heads in the sand. We are seeing stiff competition. Makerere is no longer a provincial actor in the knowledge space. When I joined the university as an undergraduate, saying I'm going to university meant you are going to Makerere in this region. No longer the case. Saying I'm on campus meant you are at Makerere. No longer the case. Within the national space, within the regional space, and the global space, competition has stiffened. In the ecosystem, we are competing with the best and brightest from the US, from Asia, from Europe. But we are seeing at the same time the rise of disruptive technologies, which require styling up. But at the same time, we are seeing limited budgets. We are seeing a tension between applied sciences and the social sciences and humanities. We are seeing a claim that even the theoretical sciences like math and physics should not be funded adequately. Funding is preferentially going to the applied disciplines. In the pre-university education spaces, we are missing. We are therefore laying a foundation for difficult learners, ill-prepared learners entering our university space. I'm very certain that this dialogue can guide us in how we can reverse that situation. Tensions do exist over the functionality of the university, and these tensions have been characterized by the resurrection of debates between utilitarianism and universalism. John Locke, who wrote in 1700, John Stuart Mill, who wrote in 1859, argued, and I quote, that the primary objective of the university is the development of marketable skills in service to the needs of economic progress. This view is upheld by Aristotle, who argues that the purpose of education is to satisfy the material needs of society through the production of learned citizens. The utilitarian view, utilitarianism means use, value addition. It's like, what benefit am I deriving? What satisfaction? That view is upheld by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda. It is upheld by the African Union Agenda 2063. It is upheld by this new initiative, ARUA, the African Research Universities Association. It is also upheld by the CEOs of Makerere as they pursue a research-led university. Now, I want us to take a moment and critically reflect on this. Is this the space that is leading us to an African university that is fit for purpose? Josephine Ahabwe, in a 2019 article, references a meeting that took place on the 8th of November 2019 between President Museveni, the First Lady, and Makerere's top management. The problem was strikes. How do we end strikes? Now, the president in the meeting reportedly directed Makerere to phase out the useless humanities courses and focus on science courses. The president allegedly criticized humanity courses as useless. And he says that humanity graduates can hardly steer national development. So what we are seeing now is that financial allocations and academic growth are favoring the academic growth of applied scientists, not the workers in CHUS, not the teachers and researchers in basic science, in math, in physics, in chemistry, in biology. And I want to argue that that is a recipe for disaster. It is a recipe for failure because we are not actually doing what we must be doing as a holistic institution. Not everyone agrees with the utilitarian view of education. Cardinal Newman, in a seminal piece of work published in 1852, before your great-grandparents were born, the publication is called The Idea of a University, and I urge you all to read it. Cardinal Newman rejects the misleading doctrine of utilitarianism and upholds the idea that we need holistic education, in his view, dominated by the liberal humanities. Confucius, and we have an institute here, concurs. For him, education is a process of integrating individuals into society. So what we are seeing then is the need to rethink received wisdom. For Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, first Prime Minister of independent India, the university stands for the search for objective truth. It stands for the onward march of humanity towards ever higher objectives. If universities discharge their duties adequately, then all is well with the nation and the people. By implication, therefore, if universities sleep on the job, as we seem to be, things will fall apart in the national, the regional, and the global ecosystem. For Cardinal Newman, the university is the place to which 1,000 schools make contributions, in which the intellect may safely range, sure to find its equal in some antagonistic activity, and its judge in the tribunal of truth. It is a place where inquiry is pushed forward, discoveries verified and perfected, rashness rendered innocuous, and error exposed by the collision of mind with mind and knowledge with knowledge. This is why we are having this dialogue. We are not having a dialogue to practice consensus. We are having a dialogue to appreciate that knowledge is advanced through dissent, not compliance. It is through dissent that knowledge is advanced. The fundamental question we need to address is, as we struggle for a 21st century African university, do we know what we are looking for? Are we aware that as we look for a developmental university, it must be fit for purpose? That the struggle for a university that recognizes its dual citizenship is the struggle we are involved in. that we must appreciate the need for theory, the need for world-class science, and at the same time, relevance within our national space. Do we appreciate that the CEO of a 21st century university is a coordinating executive, not an authoritarian boss? Because you are leading a fellowship. You are leading a community. We historically are a community of monks, the senior and the junior, and the acting monks. And as monks, we meet as a fellowship. So are we aware that we're supposed to treat others as our brother, as our sister? I want to quickly add a disturbing question. Is Makerere fit for purpose? And I'm sure the CEO recognized this key actor in this PowerPoint. And the CEO of Makerere is saying 100 PhDs are expected to be funded by Makerere using 3 billion Uganda shillings, I guess, that all people who are qualified and interested are encouraged to apply by the 21st of October. Please don't say I didn't tell you. The CEO has announced, at least he's been quoted right, the deadline is not now. Please apply. Don't complain that I didn't grow academically because there's no funding. This is the challenge. The challenge is that the research grants of RIF privilege applied sciences over humanities and social sciences. In other words, if you are from choose like me, you have to style up and become an effective marketing executive who will write in a manner that shows that what RIF is talking about is what you have always stood for, namely applied science. And that leads us to the next question. Do we appreciate the tensions over the university's identity? These tensions include looking at the university as an independent institution vis-a-vis a university as a mouthpiece of government elites. The university as an instrument of state elites is essentially a captured university. North Korea style. In North Korea, universities and research institutions are seen as tools of the ruling party. They are agents of the ruling politics and the agendas of the dominant powers. Are we looking at our university in the 21st century as captured by donors? Are Makerere's academic capitalists co-authors of their misery? This is a question we must address. Are we seeing a hybrid university that is socially embedded, but also dancing to its mission of being autonomous in advancing academic growth and the production of knowledge? It is important, therefore, for us to appreciate that these tensions have to be resolved. What seems to be emerging from the review of official documents is that the entrepreneurial university, which is privileging grant making vis-a-vis publications, appears to be breeding a distinctive culture where success is measured by the degree to which you become an administrator, because an administrator should be in charge of looking for grants, not the academic. The degree to which you are a successful beggar, and the degree to which you can be a civil society-like institution, customizing your language and vocabulary to suit the language of the funding agency. Is this what the African university is supposed to do in the 21st century? I am flashing this one to reflect a key dimension where we are sleeping on the job. We are sleeping on the job because we are not doing what we must to prepare pre-university learners. These are our own citizens. They are schooling without learning. And we took this picture from behind. And you can see the children, the learners, they are not learning. The teacher is not teaching. Now, if you think this is a bad picture, please make a physical visit to a patch. We've been to a patch. This class is not crowded. This open air class. Yes, it's under a tree, no physical space. If it rains, they go home. Or they wait for the rain to go and then they run home. Now, if you think this is bad, please visit a patch. We have visited a patch, made head count, primary 347 learners crammed in one space. The teacher has no space where to turn, nowhere to write. And if you think that's too bad, visit Busoga. I am saying we are missing. When we talk about some of these, those of us who are brave enough, we are told, you know, your ministerial job has been withheld because you are talking a lot of critical stuff. Academics who refuse to speak truth to power have forged an alliance of betrayal against the nation. We must therefore wake up and claim our position in history and our society. According to President Mandela, there is no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which society treats its children. How are we treating our children? Are we promoting learning? Are we satisfied that that picture shows somebody with a laboratory? That we are building a science culture, a culture of math, a culture of creativity. I forgot to add a contrasting picture of children in Libya under the reign of Muammar Gaddafi, who are playing with electronics, with gadgets, doing reverse engineering from babyhood. Our children don't have those tools that build a culture of science. So when you say you're paying scientists better, what are you talking? That you're paying science teachers better, what are we talking about? We are sleeping on the job as university people, because we should be speaking truth to power, not praising those duty bearers in government who are sleeping like us on the job. I want to add that the evidence is very clear. It suggests Oginga Odinga's maxim, namely, it's not yet Uhuru. P.K. Lumumba says we must hold duty bearers to account. And Albert Einstein says that we need to wake up and appreciate that science advances through dissent, not compliance. It is when you critique your fellows that you can be able to advance in science and technology. And I thought I should flash this picture to challenge us on whether or not pursuing technology, verifiable science and statistics is actually likely to result in better society. Now, Albert Einstein, whose face you can see, is not like the baby-faced academic, baby-faced, like the people I see here. They are baby-faced academic capitalists. The face of an academic should be as bad as mine, as rough as mine, not shining. Hello. Albert Einstein's face is an example of a pure academic. And he says that I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. Are we seeing this on campus? People say we are in social media spaces, but they have not said hello to the next door neighbor. They say, I'm on social media, but I'm too busy. Social media is very antisocial. And we can't solve that problem with technology. We need a social scientist. We need an artist to teach people how to conduct themselves. A few days ago, I was flying from the University of Kassel, where I represented you, on a topic called Unmasking the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And as I was coming back, I occupied my seat before I sit economy, because Makerere can't pay first class for first class academics. They pay economy if you are lucky. If you are not lucky, they say we have no money. So this time I was so lucky, Makerere didn't pay, but the person inviting me paid. Now, as I'm flying back, I sit and I'm looking in the air. The next person, my co, and we're going to be on board together for 5 hours, comes and does not even say hello. And then quickly they are on their phone. Then I volunteered, said, hello. Yes, we are co-travelers on this earth. I said, hello, my name is Mwalimu JK. How are you? Said, oh, how are you? Please, I'm busy. Leave me because I'm in the social media space. I said, social media is very antisocial. How can you say you are in social media and you can't say hello to a fellow social being? So we are seeing this and we are spending a lot of time. Let me run to the end because the chief executives want to go and govern our institution much better. I want to conclude that the ideas of academic capitalism and the entrepreneurial university mask up the coloniality of power in the global knowledge ecosystem. Martin Luther King has a compelling message for us. No one will ride your back unless it's bent. The superior powers, the imperial powers, are riding our backs because our backs are bent. And I'm saying this for all of us, but I'm saying it for the gender people, I'm saying it for the children, I'm saying it for the workers. It is only when our backs are bent that somebody can ride them. Trivializing critical thinking and context specificity in the name of promoting science is a recipe for disaster. Robotics, engineering, sensors, artificial intelligence, big data are all extremely important. They are even unstoppable. But science, I have argued, has a national grammar. Science, I hasten to add, commits suicide the moment it becomes dogmatic. The science of academic capitalism has become dogmatic. And this is the time for us to review that science. I hasten to add that applied science is unsustainable without basic science. We have to invest in math. We have to fund physics and chemistry and biology. And the worst performers in our high schools are performing worst in biology, in chemistry, in science, in physics. And then we expect by some miracle to get world-class scientists entering university spaces. We are actually fooling ourselves. Quantitative research methods which dominate our spaces are very important. Regression analysis and statistical metrics are very important. The problem is simple. Statistics typically count what is countable, not really what counts. And so I'm not saying statistics are bad. I am only saying that we need to humanize statistical sciences. We need to inject the social dimension in the science of statistics. Now, this is a joke, but it's a real joke. During the 2008 and 2009 global financial crisis, the Queen of England summoned the best and brightest economists and scientists and asked them, we have imperial colleges and universities. How come you are not able to predict the global crisis that started in America and spread? And one senior professor raises a hand and says, Your Majesty, we mistook the mathematical beauty of statistical regressions for reality. We forgot that science is for real people, not robots. If that sounds like a conclusion, it actually almost is. Now, I have outlined what I think are some of the questions that we need to ask, and questions which my discussants are free to pick or reject. How ready are we to appreciate that universities is an academy? That the Latin word universitas magistrorum et scholarium refers to us as a community, as a fellowship of teachers and scholars, junior scholars, not pupils, junior scholars. Question number 2, how ready are we to appreciate that academic growth must involve growing the academy, that is the institution, not just promotion for career growth? How much do we appreciate that the presence or absence of labs, the presence or absence of lecture spaces, the presence or absence of tea rooms contributes to the success or failure of a university in a 21st century context? Question number 3, that growing human resources is not a sign of charity. It is an obligation. Delayed promotion, therefore, contradicts the spirit of growing the fellowship. When we delay somebody's recruitment, we delay their promotion, we delay their first salary, we are injuring our own interests as a university, as a community, as a fellowship. I want to quickly add that academic growth is tough in a situation where R&D expenditure is less than 1%. It makes us vulnerable to the coloniality of power. the predatory forces in the global political economy spaces. I want to say that to what degree do we always appreciate that a 21st century university is a dual citizen of the global economy and the local economy, that we should seek path-breaking research and science from the globe, but at the same time, make knowledge applicable to our social contexts. Allow me to end with warnings which come from the Swahili community. Warning number 1, tunahitaji maandalizi ya hali ya juu. I know there is somebody here who teaches Swahili. We will give you time to educate us what these things mean. Number 2, this is coming from Mwalimu Julius Kambarage. Says siasa ni kupambanisha hoja si vioja. Nyerere means that we promote 1,000 schools of thought. Let them groom, let them shine, not just focusing on the metrics of applied science. Let 1,001 schools of thought emerge and flourish, because we are a university, which is by definition universal. But as a Mwalimu JK, allow me to make a friendly modification of some of the philosophies of the senior Mwalimu Julius Kambarage. From the Nyerere's doctrine, we are seeing certain things. One of them is that siri ya maendeleo ni watu, ardhi na uongozi bora. Now, siri ya maendeleo is that the secret to development is people, land, and good leadership. I make a friendly modification of that because we are now living in the 21st century. So I want to say, katika karne ya 21, siri ya maendeleo ni watu, elimu na utengenezaji. Elimu is education. Elimu is education. Now, bila uongozi bora, tutaendelea kuwa bara la ulimwengu wa tatu. In other words, without effective leadership, we are going to continue to be a third world. Now, to the MUASA fraternity, to the CEOs, to my discussants, and to all of you, I say in Swahili, shukrani zangu pokeeni, na dua njema na waombea.
Wow. Let's give a more vibrant and sounding applause to Professor Mwalimu JK. Wow. Asanteni, ndugu. Wow. When you picture here of a patch, I just wanted to let our friends know, if in case that patch, just pass by my classroom and you have another view of a similar experience. So what you're talking about is something that we're living with and we are dealing with. So, ladies and gentlemen, what a timely moment to have such a discussion. We deliberately adjusted the program so that all of us, including our chief guest, can benefit from this keynote address. Now, at this time, allow me to invite my colleague, Ms. Ahumuza Diana, to come and guide us through the next stage of this dialogue, which is going to be the discussion. Diana is MUASA college representative for the School of Law. In the Constitution, it is college rep, but she represents a school. Well, that is law. You're welcome. Let's welcome her. Take your seat.
Thank you very much, my co-moderator, the Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, our discussants, Chairperson MUASA, the keynote address in no particular order. I'm sorry for messing up the protocol. It's a very lovely afternoon. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Diana Ahumuza Atenyi. I'm an assistant lecturer. I'm not senior, I'm not principal yet, but just an assistant lecturer at the School of Law, where I have taught for the last 11 years. I was recruited as a teaching assistant, actually 12, as a teaching assistant in 2010, right from LDC. Now, as I was preparing for this moderation, number one, I have to say that if I had ever listened to you speak before, maybe I would have turned down this offer. You've set the bar too high. Thank you very much for that excellent presentation. Number two is that as a moderator, I thought about questions. I tried to really make research, but also think about issues that I thought would be relevant. Sitting in here and listening to your presentation preempted many of my questions because it set the context. I understood, for example, that career growth is different from academic growth. I understood the concern that was raised by the Vice Chancellor in his opening remarks when he said, I understood where he was coming from, when he said that he thought he has never heard of the term equitable academic growth because he thought academic growth is individual. So now I think all of us who have followed know that academic growth is actually institutional. That is what I have learned. And I think that is going to give us a very good basis for the discussion and the kind of, questions and issues that we want our discussants to address. I have actually understood why the situation that we are in now is the way we are. Understanding the role of capitalism in the academia, understanding the place of an African university, that the fact that it needs to be a dual citizen. And of course, we can't go away from colonialism, but we need to be relevant to the culture context. So this is the background that is going to really inform the discussion. So members, I know we are running short of time, but briefly, I'm going to invite our discussants to join us. I had their bio, they are quite long. For some of us who have had the privilege to listen to the good Mwalimu for the first time, he's an associate professor of political economy and development, of political economy of development and public policy in the Department of Political Science and Public Administration in Makerere University. He holds very many qualifications, including a first-class Masters of Public Policy from the University of Sydney. He also has been a research fellow and visiting fellow in several universities in the UK, in the USA, and in the region. So the CV is quite broad. I'll just summarize it as such. So I think that gives us some bit of context of the person we have been listening to. Mwalimu, thank you very much. I'm going to invite now, as I introduce, I'll be inviting our panelists to come and take their seats here. Then we'll guide on how we proceed with the discussion. So I'm inviting Dr. Kedres to the agenda. Dr. Kedres to the agenda holds a PhD in education management, a Masters of Science from Leicester University in the UK, a Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry and Math, a diploma in education from Makerere University, has several courses. What intrigued me about her long bio and CV is that she has risen from a classroom teacher to a policy implementer and framer in the education sector. You're very welcome, Dr. to the agenda. I grew up from Kabale, so I knew you. I never met you, but I knew you and your husband from Kabale in those days. They contributed a lot to the education sector in that district. Thank you very much. We are very privileged to have you today. Last but not least, we have Professor Umar Kakumba. He's the associate professor. He's an associate professor of public sector management in Cobhams. He's also our deputy vice chancellor academic affairs. He sits on very many management boards and schools. He's in academia, he's in administration. He's one of the people that Mwalimu Julius was trying to talk to when he kept insisting that I'm now talking truth to power. He's in the power, but he's also in academia. So we are very happy, Professor Kakumba, to have you. He's also a visiting examiner in very many universities. We are very happy to have you and for you accepting to be part of this. I also, on my own behalf, really appreciate that the Vice Chancellor has taken this discussion seriously and has stayed and will stay up to the end. Thank you very much. Now, we are going to go to the discussants. You will be given, in the interest of time, about 7 minutes to give us your insights about the issues that the keynote speaker has raised. I will start with Professor Omar Kakumba. So in your 7 minutes, you'll give us your views, but I also wanted you to address a few issues. How well does Makerere University fit within that dual citizenship role that Mwalimu Julius Kiiza has emphasized, has underscored? In my questions, I wanted to actually initially ask that, are we compliant? Are we adapting to artificial intelligence? Is our academic growth parameters keeping tab with a global, advancements in technology, in artificial intelligence, among others? But now that I have learned that we should not be focusing only one side, we should also be looking at our cultural context. I want to know the readiness of our promotion system to actually assess, use parameters that recognize that dual role of the university or the academy in the society. So are we paying, equal attention to the community service, to research that is community relevant in our academic growth, institutional policies and practices? You have 7 minutes, Professor. Thank you very much. You can use that one with the Makerere logo.